Hello and welcome to the program, How to Master Workflow in the Real Estate Sales Process. My name's Lee Woodward, the Creative Director of Realtair. What we're going to learn today is how digital transformation and triggers of tasks have changed the workflow process and allowing real estate businesses to not only better communicate, but reduce the friction between all departments and probably more importantly, allow the agents to do what they need to do. We'll be using the product called Flow. Some of you watching this video have been using our pitch and sign products from Realtair. And pitch is where we are pitching for business. And that could be a price update, a pre-listing kit, or a proposal. Sign is the digital sign on glass and the activation of the entire workflow process. And then Flow is how we manage that. For most of you, you're already using a CRM, and your CRM has been doing these tasking functions based upon reminders, trails, and tasks. But as we move into the future, we want one thing to trigger more and not just be a reminder, and that is why this program has been put together. One thing you'll notice when we go into Flow is you can see the entire platform right back to pitch and sign. And for some of you that have used the products one at a time, they're not separate things, they are one integrated middleware platform. So let's get started. One of our first tasks to master workflow is to actually make a decision of how do you sell a house. I'm going to cross to my screen and give you an example of how I've gained visibility for so many companies, helped so many agents understand the swim lanes and the workflow production of the real estate sales process. Let's cross to screen. What we are looking at right now is the listed to settled sales process and procedure. And as you can see, there is 10 milestones that I've developed. And this is an international way of looking at how real estate is sold. And milestone one is we've got to activate how a property is actually going into the system, and that'll be our proof of ID and a lot of our compliance. With that done, you can move on to process. So the administration process can now start, which means milestone 3, we can move into the design stage. Then it can be released to the general public, it can be launched through the internet. We then get to market the property, review the price, negotiate with someone. The property is then sold and it can settle. And those 10 milestones are critical to the real estate sales process. So one of our first goals, first actions that we need to do with you is configure how you actually sell a house. So as you can see here in these swim lanes, activate. And these points aren't your points, they're just loaded into this slide to give you an example of how these people have decided to list and sell a home. But as we move through this, each gate, each lane has the actions pertaining to that milestone right through to the conclusion. The reason we use 10 is it's compliant to 100%. So if I say where we're up to with Smith Street and we say we're on milestone 5, which is to launch, it's gone to the internet, we are 50% of the journey. Then we're marketing it, we're 60%. We're reviewing it, we're 70%. And when it settles, we are 100% there. So the Realtair team will work with you to confirm your listed to settle checklist. We then configure that so it can go into the system. To get maximum benefit out of our time today, I'm going to be joined by Natalie Pecci-Paykoski, who's actually been working in McGrath, Sutherland Shire. We're very fortunate that our principal there, Patrick McCarthy, allowed us to actually have Nat on site and go through the first 100 real estate transactions using Flow. That means Nat has to work with the agents, show them how it works, work back with our development team to say we need this, we need that, we need to change it here and change it there to bring us to what you're going to see today. So I'm going to bring her on set. Please welcome to our wonderful program today, Natalie.
Hello.
Natalie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Time in real estate. How long have you been in real estate?
5 years.
Now, in that 5 years in real estate, what's been your predominant role?
So I started as sales and marketing coordinator, helped out with property management as well, and just everything in real estate.
Perfect. So for our administration marketing people watching today, Nat is just like you. You have to negotiate with the agents. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. They're quite demanding at times. And you also had to take them through the transition of digital. So signing papers, having things in your diary to digitisation, how was that transition of the agents?
It was a journey. It was really good to see agents move away from paper, go digital, get their manila folder online. And great pickup from the agents. A lot of change, but well worth it.
And just for our agents watching this right now, some of you may be saying, oh, but in my CRM, I've got all that stuff. Let's call that your agent file. Flow is the master file. And when I say it's the master file, there is such a significant difference between a folder and a log. Every time something happens, and you're about to see this live on screen, it is logged in there for compliance. The owner sent this in, you replied, we added, it was signed, the marketing happened, everything is in this log. And when we look at what's going to change in real estate moving forward, the compliance part of it is why the workflow system had to be built, but also the triggers that go off to the agents and so forth, which means as an agent, you don't always have to just be logging in the system. Now, we're going to see it on screen, but you can do what they call a quick message, and it will pop up, you can type it in. That goes to the agent via email, but they can just reply to that and it comes back into the log. How does that work?
Definitely. So the little quick message feature in your timeline, which is per campaign, you just open it up and it's got the recipient. So everyone in that campaign pops up in your little quick message. Type your message, send it off, goes to the agent's inbox. They reply, it goes back into Flow, so there's a log there, and also in your inbox.
Excellent. We're going to cross the screen, log in, and get started with our learning. We've just arrived at our login screen. Nat, log us in.
Sure, so we've popped in our email address and password. We'll jump on in. And the first thing we arrive to is our agent dashboard.
I love the agent dashboard. It allows you to gain visibility over the whole process. And what we're looking at here is all the properties that are involved. And if we wanted to filter through those, we can. Step us into, if I'm a brand new agent or an administrator, I want to set up my first property, what would I be doing?
Sure, so we just jump on here, new campaign. Your agent details will populate automatically. And we'll pop in our address, select our property type, and hit next. So here we are creating our brand new campaign, fresh folder, digital folder per se.
And because the system's already been configured, that checklist that we were looking at on screen before would have been created by Realtair, loaded into the system. So every time we create a house, this is now how it's going to look and how it comes together. Now, just before we get into that part, in this top left-hand corner here, we've got our menu with a drop-down, and we've also got this word Kanban. Kanban is the Japanese Toyota way of managing workflow, and we'll be showcasing that for you. Now, we've also got pitch and sign here below Flow. How come they're in Flow? How come we can see them all here?
So the great reason why they are here is because we can actually go back to pitch, create our proposal, jump into sign, create our agency agreement, but we also do have the action buttons here.
First key point, if you're in Flow, you can go to pitch and sign because it is the entire platform. And I mentioned this earlier today that some of you come in with pitch, sign, and you think Flow's another thing. Flow is the way of working both ways. So as Nat takes us further into the program, let's take a detailed look at some of the critical actions that you can take within the pathway for listed to settled. Nat, we've just arrived back on the screen, and just for our listener, we've got a new campaign. We're in Flow. Our new property is 395 Waratah Road, Fish Creek. What are these buttons below?
So the buttons below are our action buttons and tasks that we can create and activate. So we've got our pre-list, our proposal, we can generate our agency agreement, upload an agency agreement, and any other document, and add a note.
So for those people watching now who use Pitch, you think, but I do that in Pitch. You do. Oh, but I do that in Sign. You do. But from Flow, you can do anything. And we've also got this robotic pushing of data that's going to our other systems. And that where you work, Agent Box is the actual CRM. What's going on over here that we can explain to our viewer?
So as soon as we created a new campaign in Flow, just with our basic details of address and agent, it has pushed back to Agent Box and created an appraisal for us.
Take us into Agent Box and show us what that has done. Okay, so there is that property. The agent didn't touch anything. It's been generated, pushed through to Agent Box. And just for our viewer, Agent Box now becomes the agent file. The master file is Flow. That is the compliance log when we see that part of the system. But just a great way of knowing that this automation, this integration is what allows it all to happen.
Now we've seen Flow, we're going to jump back into Sign, generate our agency agreement, get that all signed up, and activate our campaign in Flow.
If I was about to generate an agency agreement because I've got a brand new property coming on the market, I have the option of doing it in Flow. Now, most of our viewers have been coming in from Sign. Let's go to Sign.
Okay.
Now, this is our stunning new dashboard in Sign. It's showing we've got 245 documents, generated documents, signed documents, and waiting on agent is only one. Now, this layout's stunning. It's our dashboard. How do we create an agency agreement from here? And if we take the pathway that the agent's already done their pitch, they've done their proposal, and the owner's now said, yep, I want to go ahead. Actually, Nat, now we've actually mentioned that, we might take this moment to go back to the proposal, because one of the greatest things about this technology is it's progressive technology. If you put the data in as a price update, meaning you're prospecting, you then did a pre-listing kit, you've put more data in, you've then gone to the full proposal stage and all that data's there. And if they're saying yes to your proposal, we're going to cross to you now, Nat, and we can actually activate the agency agreement from there, which takes that data into Sign, and then Sign is what activates Flow. So although this is a program on Flow, you're seeing how it all connects up to be one platform. Nat, take us into that proposal.
Okay, so now we can see that we've created our full proposal, sent it off to the vendor, and we now have their go-ahead. So what we can do, jump back into Pitch, click on our three dots here and hit Create Agency Agreement. So this is now taking us into Sign, and a really good feature here is all information that we pushed into Pitch will come over into Sign now.
What I love about this is this check-in area. So vendor details already in there because it came through. Step us through the next parts.
Okey-dokey. So we'll pop in our solicitor details. If they don't know who their solicitor is, we can hit to be advised. Our particulars of our agency agreement. Now, all this information was popped into Pitch. So we've got our price that has come over, our method of sale. We just fill out the particulars. Jump over into our proof of ID. We're going to be verifying them either remotely or in person. Popping our commission. Our comparable sales have pulled through from our proposal. Now we can change these, leave them as is. Away we go. And our marketing quote also has pulled through. We do have the option of creating any new ones, updating or amending. And that's our agency agreement done. So what you've seen now is a really quick and easy way of generating an agency agreement from our full proposal. So all our information has been popped into our proposal. we've executed the agency agreement, and that's all gone over into Flow and completed a few tasks already.
That was really exciting to watch those steps. And I know myself as an agent, I don't like filling in data and then filling in data and then filling in data. But if I'm pitching for business and I've won it and those details have been moved forward, and as Nat just articulated beautifully there, you've already filled in so much of the administration side of the process that you would usually do in the CRMs and set up your tasks and trails. You don't need to do that now. And one of my excitements about this whole project of Flow was not only the winning business and pitching side, but when I was an agent, you would fill out the paper-based authority because there wasn't digital back then. I would pop it in the blue in tray and I was out, and our amazing administration team would then physically create the paper file, check everything off, make sure it was compliant because I made errors. And I think I made many errors in agency agreements, but no one ever detected them because I went in the file so quick. Whereas in digital, we have that safe compliance. But as an agent, if you're watching this right now, you've already pushed the whole thing down the pipe so much, and depending on how your office is set up, everything else will be pushed back through to the CRM, but you are free to go out there and start selling. The only big thing we've got left to do is the compliance checklist. And I want to share my views on this. Agents who are watching, administrators who are understanding, the only person who was present in the listing presentation or the listing conversation was the listing agent. And when they agreed to certain terms, or we won't send any mail to your address, or both of you will be receiving email correspondence, you made those consents, those conditions. So it is critical that the final part of the agent's journey here, at this point of where we are, is you go through that compliance checklist. Because no matter where I go around the country, administration are saying, I'm always chasing Daniel for this. I'm always chasing Peter for, he didn't put the license in. We go back and forth, back and forth. The owner then says, why isn't my property on the market? And it's loose detail that causes this challenge. The compliance checklist is the responsibility of the agent because you were there. It's about business maturity, looking after your team members so that they are ticked off and it can now flow. The owner's protected, and we know that's our job as an agent, is to protect the asset, protect the owner. But this is such an important part of the program. Nat, let's cross back to you.
Thanks for that, Lee. Just touching on that, from signing of an agency agreement, that's when the email notifications will activate. So if you sign your agency agreement digitally, your admin staff will get notified, your team members will get notified. Now you as an agent will also receive this notification. On this notification, there will be a little action button, complete compliance checklist. Now you can click this and it will take you straight into Flow so you can complete your checklist.
Nat, what does it look like on screen on your mobile if I'm an agent out in the field?
Yeah, so what we can see here is the agreement that has been sent to the vendor. So here we can see that the vendor can click on the review and sign now. This will take the vendors directly to the agency agreement where they can consent, read through their document and start signing. The little green arrow up the top in the right hand corner prompts the vendors on where they need to sign. So what I always recommend to agents advising their vendors on how to sign an agency agreement digitally, always look for the green box. Click the green box. Now we've got two options on how vendors can sign agency agreements, and this is the same process for agents. So we can squiggle or type in. We click sign and work our way through the document.
Once the vendor has signed their agreements, it's then going to go back to our agent?
Correct. So the agent will get a notification when the vendor opens their agreement and also when they sign their agreement. Also, another great feature is if you have multiple vendors, each vendor will receive a separate agency agreement, and then once all have signed, it will collate it and bring it to you for signing.
Let's now move into the compliance checklist. And the agent can actually do this off their phone, but I would recommend it on screen, or what's your view?
I would do it on screen just to see your comparable sales if you need to refer back to any documents. It's just much more friendlier on a computer, or also accessible on your phone if you're on the run. All right, so now we've got our signed agency agreement from our vendors and agent has signed. So we've jumped back into Flow, into the campaign. Now, just to give you a little update on the timeline, all of our actions that we have been doing throughout the campaign are being documented. So our full proposal generated, signed agency agreement, marketing schedule received. Now in this case, we didn't upload the proof of ID initially, so a prompt has come up to us saying we need to upload. So we've done that. And now we're on to completing our compliance checklist. All agents' tasks will sit in the My Task list. Other tasks, you can see where your admin tasks sit. So we'll just go ahead and complete the compliance checklist. Now with this checklist, there's 4 stages, really easy, quick tool and task for agents. So the first one, estimated selling price. We're not going above or under our requirements. Our comparable sales that we initially put in our proposals go to our agency agreement has now come into Flow. So we tick that we have sourced 3 or more. Now, if we don't source any and we get to this point, we can search for our comparable sales now. Any disclosures or rebates, you guys can see that it's pre-filled, so we're making it easy for you. Last step, confirmation. So the vendor has received a copy of the agency agreement, the date it was provided, all blank fields are completed, and all answers are correct. Now generating also is our email templates. So we've got our thank you for listing letter to the vendor and our contract request to our solicitor. Now just a quick tip here. We do have a hyperlink with our agency agreement just to make sure the vendor does receive a copy. So we can go down and hit send. And also our contract request to the solicitor. Now note that your email address as an agent will populate automatically. Now we've done this so you can receive and see what goes out from the system.
Agents, the blue in-tray in digital has just happened. You are free to get selling. What Nat has just taken you through by you completing the compliance checklist, the email correspondence to our owners, all those things are now in that log. Now, I mentioned this earlier in our program. Flow is the master file. It's not a folder, it's a log. And all these actions that we've been looking at have been time-stamped in the system. There's hyperlinks to each of those documents or each of those parts of the system. And this is why the workflow management is so important. These notifications to marketing, meaning the property can go live to the internet. Yes, administration will do a final check, but if you're an agent working in a company where administration and support is provided, I call that essential services or centralised services, you are now ready to just go and sell real estate. You've done everything you need to do. If you don't, and you're doing these things yourself, we will step you through into how these actions come up in your tasking list, meaning all tasks are yours versus my tasks. Mine means all. If you work by yourself, you're a solo agent. And I'm also going to show you this word, Kanban, which was the Toyota Japanese way of production line moving information through the system. Nat, let's cross back to you. Welcome to Kanban. Now, you're going to take us through this, but Kanban was that part of the menu, and it shows you what's to do, in progress, awaiting information, and complete. Explain this further to us.
Of course. So here we've got all our tasks that we have come across so far in our campaign. All our completed tasks on our agent's side all sit here. We can see how easy it is to see what's been done, when it was done, and who did it. So we are now, for this example, at review and approve stage on an admin side. So like the email notifications to agents, your admin staff will get notifications once a compliance checklist has been complete, and for them to start reviewing and approving. So I'll jump into the first task, which is reviewing of the agency agreement. So we've got the two screens to reference back to our agency agreement and checklist. Any documents that are in your agency agreement or authority will get split up for the admin to review and approve individually. Comparable sale.
And this is just that brilliant recheck of the check to make sure we've got everything compliant.
That's it. Alrighty. So final check is reviewing the agent's compliance checklist, just making sure that they've got their 3 comparable sales and the vendor has received a copy of their agency agreement. Now those are the steps of an admin to approve a new listing. Email notifications will go out to the team for listing approval. On listing approval, our automation is working in the back end of things to push all the information that we've now put into Flow back into our CRM, so there's no double handling or double entering of any information.
Thank you, and Natalie. For all of you watching, we have come a long way in this journey. And when you're watching something like workflow as a video, you can think, how long is this going to go for? But if you look at the real estate sales process, once we've won the business, signed the documents, activated the campaign, had all our tasking done to get it live to the marketplace, not much happens now till we do the price adjustment, we land the purchaser, and we move into the sales advice. And I think this was one of my most exciting parts when I was learning the Flow system. Now, I was attracted to the Realtair system because of the triggering of automation and what could happen. But I remember saying to Blake, who is our Chief Technology Officer, is that it? Is there any more to know? Is that it? And I think for many years, our industry's been baffled by technology. But what we've just seen there and what Natalie has taken us through is virtually everything you can do up until we land the purchaser, or one step before that, adjust the price. And that is how workflow actually works. The fact that all the people involved, meaning when we configure the system for you, we'll actually be putting in there that, okay, that task goes to lead, that goes to support, and everyone who's got an interest in the property is notified, and as they update things, it goes into the log, which is our master file. So what we're going to do now is go back into the system and look at these final actions of what can be performed. And some of those are rather repetitive. The way you do it for one is the way you do it for others, and then you have mastered your workflow. Nat, let's cross back to you on screen.
Alrighty, so we're back in Flow now, and our next task and action that we can do is update the price estimate. So this will take us straight into sign. It will bring across our vendor information, as well as our original sale price, pop in our revised price, and how we want to display the new sale price. Our 3 comparable sales do pull over from our agency agreement.
And I will add here, if you are changing that price due to some recent sales, now would be the time to update that.
And there we have our generated document. So now I'm going to show you guys how to do an offer and acceptance, generate the email templates and sales summaries and send it out to all respective parties.
Exciting part of the journey. We've landed a purchaser. They're making an offer. Step us through this.
Alrighty, so we're back into flow. Our next action is uploading an offer. So we've got 4 steps here: purchaser, offer details, solicitor and confirm details. So we just populate the purchaser's full name. We do have the option of popping in a second purchaser also. Sale price. Your expected unconditional date. Deposit amount. Proposed settlement date. And any special conditions.
And this becomes important as it's going to populate the actual exchange of contracts on sign-on glass when we get to that moment.
Alrighty, so this is just reviewing of our sales summary, making sure that all information is correct. Now we've got our 4 email templates that generate to both solicitors, vendor and purchaser. We've got our link with the sales advice that solicitors can download. So we just go ahead and send them, and that's offer and acceptance done.
Well, that was exciting. Emails generated, hyperlinks for lawyers to download the sales advice information. Everything we need is there. We didn't have to go into Word or Acrobat or any of these other programs where any of us get lost. The fact that that is all shrink wrapped together, loading it into our log. Remember, it's not a folder, it's a log. And probably one of the greatest learns I've had in producing this program is flow is structural, CRMs are data. So everyone says, oh, but in my CRM, I do that now and I do this thing. I get that. That's like your agent file. We're now talking about industrial strength compliance. And when we look at where the real estate world is going, such as trustless trust accounts, where we won't have trust accounts on our premises, in our offices in the future, it must be in this type of environment, as flow is built at that industrial level to communicate directly with the banks, with those deposits, with those funds. Real estate is heading in that direction. We know how fast it's coming. That's why we have to do it this way. Nat, let's have a look at the exchange of contracts process, which brings us closer to our settlement. Now, just before we go into the exchange of contracts information, we've mentioned already throughout the program that we may need to send a quick message to the agent. Now, the agent doesn't want to log into the platform, they're on the road, they're running around. How does this work?
Sure, so admin can just jump into the timeline, open up a new message. Their agent's email address will already be there, and any respective people around this campaign, you pop in your message and hit send, and that will go straight to the agent's inbox.
Now, we can send a message, we can add an attachment, we've got all these ways of doing it, but when the agent responds, it comes directly back into our log, back into our system. How's that possible?
Technology.
Take us into how we would load our exchange of contracts.
Perfect. So we jump back into the timeline, hit upload exchange details. Now our purchaser from our offer will be here. So we'll select him. All his details are already there, as well as the solicitor.
This is a great look at this progressive technology, no more double entry.
We upload our signed front pages, select our exchange type, fill in the particulars. As we can see, this has come across from our offer, so we just need to confirm any exchange details and settlement period dates. Here we've got confirming our commission if we're splitting it with internal or external, and confirming our sales summary details. Now here our 4 email templates will generate just like our offer, with our hyperlinks, exchange front pages, and also with your vendor letter, it does have their settlement information request sheet on there.
That is amazing. Again, we can see the engine spinning there. Everything's been generated, loaded in. I love this drop down, pop down where, okay, they're the 4 communication elements ready for sending, but we can just click on those, review that information if we need to. But again, we're not leaving the platform. We're not going to Word or PDF generators, saving it on desktops and lifting it back up into email. It's staying within our log.
That's correct. So, and just a little note, all our email templates are editable. So if you wanted to take something out or put something back in, that is fully functional. Alrighty, so we've processed our exchange. We're coming close to settlement. 14 days prior, the agent will receive an email notification reminder to check in with the vendor, see how they're going, and just a reminder to get their bank account details in preps for settlement. Now, our settlement module is designed for our accounts team to open up communication between accounts and agents, just to make it easy and visible on where everything's up to on settlement. So we've got 2 tasks, one prior to settlement and one post. Our prior is just accounts checklist. They've got their vendor bank account details, confirm commission and marketing. Now our post task is once funds have been released, accounts will upload the order on the agent, and email templates will generate for the vendor with a statement of account of their sale. This will also copy in the agent so they are across all lines of communication.
Now, we're now approaching settlement, and I can see here in the log there is a settlement preparation checklist. Who's that one for?
The checklist is for the accounts team.
What about the agent? What do they get prior to settlement?
So 14 days prior, they'll receive a reminder email notification to touch base with the vendor, see how they're going, and grab their bank account details for the accounts team. Also, 7 days prior, they will receive another email notification reminder to book the pre-settlement inspection in with the purchaser.
And we have arrived at the settlement process. Now, we're going to pop back on screen for just a moment because you'll notice these critical tasks that we started with have been removed. They're gone. That's because they're complete and they're being taken out of the system, meaning process of elimination. We've only got a few things left to go, such as remove the signboard. But this is how flow is built. We're showing you what you need to see when you need to see it, which is very different to reminders. Nat, let's go back to you on screen and do our final look at the system. So we can see these buttons have reduced to just merely 3 things now because they're complete, they've been removed. Nat, take us through this last part of our journey.
So here we are at our timeline, and our last task that needs to be complete is request signboard removal. So this can be done on an agent or admin behalf. We just pop in our removal date, hit submit, and that's that task complete, and that will go straight to our marketing department so they can request signboard removal.
And just on the other 2 buttons, upload document could be survey, building report, sewer diagram. Add note could be halfway through the campaign, the owner rang up and said, we cannot have an open house this weekend due to, we add that note. Now people think, oh, but I just take notes in my CRM or I've got a journal. No, this is about compliance. This is about it all going in the log so it can be in the one place. And 395 Waratah Road, Fish Creek has a complete and legal compliance channel, not just notes everywhere, which is what we've seen in the real estate industry. There's a lack of completeness and accuracy, and this is why the Flow product has been built. And that brings us to the conclusion of this webinar, and a big thank you to Natalie for providing us brilliant street level information of how the listed to settled or the signed to settled process is achieved. Where to from here? If you are now going to activate this system into your business, that could be agent, company or enterprise, the first steps we need to do is get your paper-based listed to settled checklist complete. We can provide you with one of those checklists for modification as the system gets configured so that it works for you. Then you can modify it per agent, per team, per EBU, that can be done. But getting that first listed to settle checklist is really important. And from our experience, a lot of companies haven't revisited that in many, many years, and it becomes a great structural audit of your business. My name's Lee Woodward. I'm very happy to have brought this information and production to you today. For further information and activation of this system, please call Realtair on 1300 367 412. Till next time, goodbye.